I 35F never felt like I truly belonged in my family. Growing up in our Upper East Side townhouse, it was always clear who the golden child was, my sister Victoria 38F. From our earliest childhood memories, the disparity in treatment was stark and painful. When I got straight A's in school, it was met with a dismissive, "Well, that's expected." But when Victoria managed to scrape by with B's and C's, our parents would throw celebration dinners, praising her well-rounded personality and how she didn't just focus on books. During my high school graduation, where I was valedictorian, my parents spent most of the ceremony filming Victoria's latest modeling audition on their phones. They missed my speech entirely. "You'll have other achievements," Mom said afterward, not even trying to hide her disinterest. Meanwhile, they framed every single one of Victoria's failed modeling competition certificates. The pattern continued through college. I worked multiple part-time jobs and secured scholarships to attend law school, while they freely paid for Victoria's 5 different attempts at starting college, none of which she completed. "She's finding herself," they'd say proudly. When I landed on the dean's list every semester, they'd just nod and quickly change the subject to Victoria's latest, entrepreneurial inspiration. I'm currently a senior associate at one of Manhattan's top law firms, on track to make partner next month. Despite my professional success, my family has always treated me as the lesser daughter. Victoria dropped out of her modeling career after a few failed attempts, started and abandoned multiple businesses, each more disastrous than the last, yet somehow remained the apple of our parents' eyes. There was the luxury pet spa that went bankrupt after 3 months, leaving our parents to cover $80,000 in debts. The revolutionary dating app that turned out to be a front for credit card fraud, they hired the best lawyers to keep her name clean. The wellness brand that got sued for false advertising, again, our parents mortgaged their vacation home to settle it quietly. After each failure, they'd comfort her with expensive gifts and supportive words, "You're just too creative for this world, sweetie." Meanwhile, when I needed therapy to deal with the constant favoritism and emotional neglect, they told me I was being dramatic and trying to get attention. I ended up paying for my own counseling with my law school stipend money. The only person who ever made me feel valued was my grandfather. At 85, he was a renowned art collector, known for his impeccable taste and extensive collection of 19th-century masterpieces. He lived in this magnificent brownstone across Central Park, and visiting him was like stepping into another world where I wasn't constantly being compared to Victoria. "You remind me so much of your grandmother," he used to tell me, standing in front of this particular painting in his study, a stunning portrait of a woman from the 1800s. He swore she looked just like Grandma, who passed when I was 12. "You've got that same fire in your eyes, Jasmine. You're going to do great things." I never quite saw the resemblance, but it made me feel special. Like I belonged somewhere, even if it wasn't in my own home. Things got even more tense when Victoria's latest entrepreneurial venture failed spectacularly last year. My parents had invested heavily in her luxury pet accessories brand, scraping together every penny they could. But Victoria had bigger plans. She was going to be the next big thing in pet fashion. She kept saying the business was just about to take off, while burning through their retirement savings. When my grandfather's health began declining 3 months ago, Victoria suddenly started visiting him more frequently. She would bring him soup, read to him, act like the perfect granddaughter. I was busy with a major case at work and couldn't visit as often as I wanted, but I called him every day. He always said, "Don't worry about me, focus on your career. You're making me proud." Last month, he passed away peacefully in his sleep. At the reading of the will, something unexpected happened. My grandfather had left Victoria $1.8 million in cash, a generous inheritance by any standard. But to me, he left his most prized possession, the portrait he loved so much, the one he always said reminded him of Grandma. The room went completely silent when the lawyer announced this. I opened the appraisal documents with shaking hands. The painting was worth $4.2 million. It wasn't just any portrait, it was a lost masterpiece, rediscovered and authenticated by my grandfather decades ago. The look on my family's faces. I'll never forget it. Victoria's perfect mask cracked, showing raw fury underneath. My parents were literally shaking with anger. "This is ridiculous." Victoria exploded. "She doesn't even appreciate art. She's just a boring lawyer." I stood my ground. This was grandfather's decision, I said firmly. The lawyer backed me up, explaining that my grandfather had updated his will just 2 weeks before his death, specifically designating the painting to me. My parents tried to intervene. "Sweetheart," my mother said in that condescending tone she reserves for me, "wouldn't it be better to sell the painting and split the money? Victoria's business ideas need funding, and you're already doing well in your career." I refused. This wasn't about money, it was about my grandfather's faith in me. We agreed to keep the painting in its original place in his study until I could arrange proper security and insurance for it. Until proper security measures can be arranged, I specified, knowing my expertise in art law would help protect my interests. I insisted on maintaining the existing alarm system and kept the only spare key to the study where it hung. What I didn't know then was that Victoria had already made a copy of that key months ago, during her devoted caregiver act. She had been photographing the painting extensively, supposedly for Instagram memories, but actually for the forgers to work from. Looking back, there were subtle signs I should have noticed sooner. Victoria's sudden interest in art history, asking detailed questions about the painting's provenance. Her new friendship with a gallery owner, who turned out to be the middleman for the forgery. The way she insisted on rearranging the study's lighting, to better preserve the artwork. The day I discovered the switch, I had come to the house for my weekly check. Something felt off the moment I entered the study. The air smelled different, like fresh varnish, though they had tried to mask it with grandfather's favorite tobacco scent. The painting looked slightly different too. The colors were brighter, newer. The subtle crackling in the varnish that comes with age was missing. As a lawyer specializing in art fraud, I've worked on enough cases to know the telltale signs. I pulled out my phone and compared the painting to the detailed photos I'd taken for insurance purposes. The brushwork was similar but not identical. The signature, while close, had a slightly different slant. Most tellingly, the slight damage on the frame's corner, a mark my grandfather had always refused to repair because it gave the piece character, had been filled in. My hands were shaking as I made some calls. Within hours, I had 2 art authentication experts at the house. Their preliminary examination confirmed my worst fears. This was a forgery, a good one, but definitely not the original. The next 48 hours were a blur of investigation. My professional contacts helped trace the sale through various shell companies. The original had been sold through a private dealer to a collector in Dubai for $4.2 million. The money trail led straight to Victoria's new penthouse purchase. What really got to me wasn't just the theft, it was the planning that went into it. They hadn't just stolen the painting, they'd orchestrated an elaborate scheme, probably months in the making. Victoria's sudden devotion to grandfather, the constant photographs, the insisted upon renovations to the study, it had all been part of their plan. Even more infuriating was finding out that my parents had helped facilitate the whole thing. They had vouched for Victoria with the art dealer, using their social connections to make the sale appear legitimate. They had helped her find the forgers through some acquaintance in the art world. They had even advised her on how to structure the penthouse purchase to avoid immediate detection. When I confronted them with the evidence, their response was chilling. "You're making such a fuss over nothing," my mother said dismissively. "Victoria needed the money more than you needed some old painting. Besides, the copy looks just as good, most people wouldn't even know the difference. We did this for the family," my father added, as if that justified everything. "Victoria has real plans for that money. You're just being selfish, as usual." That was the moment I knew there was no going back. I contacted the FBI's art crime team and filed a formal complaint. Within days, they had frozen Victoria's assets and launched a full investigation. But they forgot something crucial: I'm not just any lawyer. I specialize in white-collar crime and art fraud. The moment I confirmed the forgery, I contacted the FBI's art crime team. Victoria's penthouse has been seized, and the investigation is expanding to include everyone involved in the fraud. My parents are desperately trying to get me to drop the charges, saying I'm tearing the family apart. Victoria sent a tearful voicemail begging me to understand that she deserved the money more than I did, that her lifestyle needs were greater than mine. The fallout has been intense. My mother's social circle, the same Upper East Side elite who attended all of Victoria's failed business launches, are now circulating rumors about my mental instability and how I'm jealous of Victoria's entrepreneurial spirit. My father's golf club friends are suggesting that I orchestrated this whole thing to ruin my sister's promising future. Even my own colleagues seem divided. Some understand completely, they've seen similar family fraud cases destroy relationships. Others think I'm overreacting, that his family matters should be handled privately. One senior partner even took me aside and suggested I might want to reconsider my position, implying it could affect my upcoming partnership consideration. But I can't back down now. This isn't just about the money or even the painting itself anymore. It's about my grandfather's legacy, about right and wrong, about standing up to years of manipulation and favoritism. Yesterday, I found an old photo of my grandfather standing in front of the painting, his hand resting proudly on the frame. On the back, he'd written, "To Jasmine, remember, true value isn't in what something costs, but in what it represents." The federal prosecutors believe they have a strong case. Art fraud at this level carries serious penalties, and the evidence is overwhelming. Victoria's perfect plan has more holes than she realized. Her fake invoices don't match the shipping records, her shell companies have paper trails, and the forgers are already talking to save themselves. My parents face conspiracy charges. Their social status won't protect them this time. The prosecutor pointed out that their involvement in multiple fraudulent schemes, including previous cover-ups of Victoria's business mishaps, shows a pattern of behavior that the courts won't look kindly upon. Tomorrow, I meet with the FBI's lead investigator. My phone keeps buzzing with messages from family members I haven't heard from in years, all suddenly concerned about preserving family unity. But as I sit in my hotel room, looking at that photo of my grandfather, I know I'm doing the right thing. Sometimes, justice means standing alone. Sometimes, it means letting go of the fantasy of family and embracing the reality of who people really are. Victoria didn't just steal a painting, she and my parents stole years of trust, love, and respect. Now they'll face the consequences of their actions, just like anyone else would. I'll update as the legal proceedings continue, though my lawyers have advised me to be cautious about sharing details. For now, I'm focusing on my work and the upcoming partner announcement. At least in my professional life, hard work and integrity still mean something. Update 1, it's been 2 weeks since my last post, and things have gotten even more intense. The FBI investigation revealed something I never expected. Victoria had actually been planning to frame me for the art fraud. She had created an elaborate paper trail making it look like I had orchestrated the entire scheme. Forged emails in my name to the forgery ring, fake bank statements showing transfers from my accounts, and even hired someone to impersonate me in meetings with the art dealer. Her plan might have worked, except for one stupid mistake. She used her burner phone to order Uber Eats, linking it to her real identity. The phone contained all her communications with the forgers and her plans to frame me. The family has split into 2 camps since this revelation. My mother's sister, Aunt Catherine, came forward with years of documentation about Victoria's schemes and our parents' cover-ups. She revealed how Victoria had tried to rope her into providing a false alibi for this latest fraud. Other relatives are now speaking up too. Apparently, Victoria has a long history of manipulating family members and having our parents clean up her messes. My cousin Michael revealed how Victoria had convinced our grandparents to co-sign a loan for one of her failed businesses, nearly causing them to lose their home. Another cousin, Rebecca, shared how Victoria had stolen and sold her engagement ring, then convinced our parents to pressure Rebecca into dropping the charges to keep the peace. Victoria's response? She's launched a social media campaign portraying herself as the victim of a vindictive sister and corrupt FBI investigation. She's doing Instagram lives from her friend's apartment since her penthouse was seized, crying about being persecuted for having dreams. The most absurd part? She's trying to launch a consulting firm to help people navigate family wealth disputes, using this scandal as marketing material. Our parents haven't given up either. They've hired a PR firm to manage the family's image, and are pressuring relatives to sign affidavits supporting Victoria's version of events. They even tried claiming grandfather wasn't mentally competent when he wrote his will, a move that backfired when medical records proved otherwise. The FBI is now expanding their investigation to include Victoria's previous business ventures and our parents' role in covering them up. I've had to move hotels twice because Victoria's supporters kept showing up to reason with me. Thankfully, my firm has been supportive, especially after her framing attempt came to light. Through all this, I found something interesting in my grandmother's old papers, letters describing how she faced similar family pressure when she chose to work as a lawyer instead of joining the family's social circle. Reading them gave me strength. The preliminary hearing is next week, and my lawyers are confident, especially with the new evidence. I'll update after the hearing. Update 2, the preliminary hearing happened yesterday, and it went nothing like anyone expected. Victoria showed up with her own lawyer, not the family's lawyer, and proceeded to throw our parents completely under the bus. Her new defense? She claims our parents masterminded the whole scheme and coerced her into participating by threatening to cut her off financially. According to her tearful testimony, they've been using her as a pawn in their financial schemes since she was young, setting up fake businesses to hide money and using her name on fraudulent documents because she was too naive to question them. Our parents' faces when Victoria started talking. I've never seen them look so shocked. Mother actually fainted when Victoria's lawyer presented emails showing how they had orchestrated similar schemes with Victoria's previous businesses. Turns out, those failed ventures weren't just failures, they were elaborate money laundering operations. The art dealer who helped sell the painting came forward with recordings of all his meetings with our parents. Apparently, he'd been working with the FBI from the start, suspicious of how eagerly they wanted to sell a recently inherited painting. The recordings show them explicitly planning to use Victoria as the fall person if anything went wrong. The most shocking revelation came from grandfather's former assistant. She'd kept detailed records of how our parents had been trying to manipulate grandfather's will for years. They would bring him documents to sign when he was on heavy medication, attempt to isolate him from his art dealer friends, and even tried to have him declared incompetent. My mother's brother Uncle James revealed that our grandmother had been forced out of our grandfather's art gallery business by her own family back in the 1960s. She had evidence of financial misconduct but chose to stay quiet to protect the family. Grandfather had always regretted not standing up for her then, which is why he was so determined to protect me in his will. The painting itself has been located in Dubai and should be returned within a month. The authorities there are cooperating fully, especially since the art dealer provided evidence that my parents knew the sale was fraudulent. Victoria is now offering to testify against our parents in exchange for a lighter sentence. Her lawyer is pushing the narrative of her being a victim of lifelong financial abuse. She's already teasing a tell-all book about growing up in a family of financial predators, somehow still not seeing the irony in marketing her victimhood. My parents' social circle is imploding. Several of their friends have been subpoenaed about their involvement in various business dealings. The country club has suspended their membership, mother's hospital board position is gone, and father resigned his trustee position at his alma mater, for personal reasons. The extended family is reeling from all these revelations. Some are frantically checking their own financial records, worried they might have unknowingly been part of some scheme. Others are coming forward with their own stories of financial manipulation by my parents. My firm has been incredibly supportive through all this. The managing partner actually pulled me aside to say they're accelerating my partnership track. Apparently, my handling of this situation impressed them. We need partners who can maintain ethical standards even under extreme personal pressure, she said. I'm finally moving out of the hotel and into my own apartment. Looking at grandmother's portrait in the evidence photos, I think I finally see what grandfather meant about the fire in her eyes. That same fire is what's keeping me going through all this. The main trial is scheduled for next month. I'll update again after the trial. For now, I'm focusing on work and trying to process everything we've learned. Just when I think this situation can't get any more twisted, another layer of family secrets gets peeled away. Update 3, the trial concluded yesterday, and the judge's ruling was more severe than anyone anticipated. Despite Victoria's attempt to play the victim and my parents' last-minute plea for leniency, justice was served. My parents were each sentenced to 4 years in federal prison for conspiracy, fraud, and money laundering. The judge was particularly harsh in her remarks, noting there is systematic abuse of family trust and years of calculated financial crimes. Their assets have been frozen, and they're required to pay $2.1 million in fines and restitution. Victoria, despite her cooperation with prosecutors, still got 2 years in prison plus 3 years of supervised release. Her tell-all book deal was cancelled after the publisher learned she had lied about several key details in her proposal. The penthouse has been seized and sold to help pay restitution. The FBI investigation uncovered that all those failed businesses of Victoria's were actually shell companies for money laundering. My parents had been using her ventures to hide money from the IRS for years. Their social standing is completely destroyed. Most of their high society friends are now desperately trying to distance themselves. My mother's last attempt at manipulation backfired spectacularly. The day before sentencing, she sent a letter to the judge claiming she had terminal cancer. Medical records proved this was yet another lie, which only made the judge more furious. Victoria's final betrayal of our parents came when she revealed their offshore accounts in exchange for a slightly reduced sentence. She even recorded conversations where they planned to flee the country if things went badly. The look on their faces when those recordings played in court was priceless. The painting is finally back in my possession and now hangs in my new office. I've been promoted to partner at my firm, partly due to how I handled this case. The insurance appraisal values it at $4.8 million now, but I'll never sell it. It's become a symbol of standing up for what's right, even against your own family. As for my parents and Victoria, they start their sentences next month. Victoria's last Instagram post was a teary to her followers, still trying to spin this as a story of persecution rather than consequences. My parents haven't spoken to me since the verdict, but I heard they're already trying to write their own book about being victims of the justice system. I've finally found peace with everything. My grandfather believed in me when no one else did, and now I understand why he left me the painting. It wasn't just about the art or the money, it was about having the strength to stand up for what's right, no matter the cost. Update 4, it's been 6 months since my last update, and my life has completely transformed. I've opened my own law firm specializing in art fraud and family estate disputes. The publicity from my case actually brought in several high-profile clients dealing with similar family betrayals. The biggest surprise came during the painting's professional restoration. Hidden beneath layers of varnish was my grandmother's signature. Turns out she was an art restorer herself before being forced out of the family business. The discovery made headlines in the art world and increased the painting's value to $5.2 million. My parents and Victoria are serving their sentences in separate facilities. Victoria has been writing to various family members, begging for commissary money, but everyone's finally seen through her manipulation. Last I heard, she's finding herself in prison art therapy. The irony isn't lost on anyone. The FBI's investigation into my parents' affairs led to the discovery of a wider art fraud ring in Manhattan's upper society. Several of their former friends are now under investigation. My firm is assisting the FBI's art crime team as expert consultants, which has brought in even more clients. I've started a foundation in my grandfather's name that provides legal assistance to people dealing with family financial abuse. We've already helped several elderly people protect their assets from manipulative relatives. The woman in the painting watches over our foundation's office, her expression seeming to approve of each case we win. My career has soared beyond my wildest expectations. The partnership I was originally pursuing seems tiny compared to running my own successful firm. We've grown to 15 attorneys in 6 months, all specializing in different aspects of art and estate law. Aunt Catherine has become my closest family member and a trusted advisor. She's helped me reconnect with relatives who genuinely care about me, not just what they can get from me. We have regular family dinners, the healthy, supportive kind I never experienced growing up. The story of my case is now being taught in law schools as an example of how to handle complex family fraud situations. I've been invited to give guest lectures at several top universities, sharing my experience and helping future lawyers understand the intersection of family dynamics and financial crimes. My grandfather was right all along. Standing up for what's right is worth any temporary pain it might cause. I'm no longer the uncertain woman who hesitated to challenge her family's toxic behavior. I'm a successful business owner, a respected attorney, and most importantly, I'm finally free from the weight of toxic family expectations. The painting remains my most treasured possession, not for its monetary value, but for what it represents: the strength to stand up for justice, the importance of protecting what's right, and the power of breaking free from toxic family dynamics. Every morning when I walk into my office, I see it and remember, some things are worth fighting for, no matter the cost.